305.5 yards for Patrick Mahomes, around 240.5 for Jimmy Garoppolo. Sean, what are your thoughts on those props? Any other props you like for these guys?
Yeah, so I think the yardage props are spot on. I have their median right around there, and we could talk about it. I think wide receivers, there's some opportunities for guys with lower projected totals. Like that's where the value is. But with passing yards, it takes a good like 15 yards to be off for it to meet the threshold where I'm in a bet. So these I'm staying away from. I think they're pretty much on par. But for each quarterback, I think their rushing props are favoring the under a bit. With Jimmy G, books do usually offer 4.5 yards for him, and usually I just pound the under. Usually I have 58 to 60% chance he'll go under, but this game in particular, he's around 55%. And the reason that is, I have for quarterback rushing yards, I simulate out how they're going to rush in the first 59 minutes of the game, and then the opportunity for kneel downs at the end. So a guy like Jimmy G, they've won 14 games, 15 games total this year. His rushing stats are going to have kneel downs at the end of the game. So typically his median's gonna be around 2.5. But this game, the Niners being +1, +1.5, it actually helps out his rushing prop. So I'm probably going to avoid it this game, but this is usually a prop I attack, but that's why I'm avoiding it this game. And then on the other side, Patrick Mahomes, I mean, he's just been incredible rushing lately. So, we have a really high total. I think some books are up to 30 now. What's the highest total you've seen for Mahomes rushing prop right now?
32.5 at some books.
32.5. Okay. Yeah.
That's super high.
Yeah, so if I get 32.5, that's now 63.9%. And I've factored in, I think he had the knee injury, halfway through the season. So I sort of ignored his rushing stats in that range. So I think, the recent rushing boom for him, I think we'll see that spill over, but that's still a high projection for him. I think he's going to stay in the pocket and throw a lot in this game. So, under 32.5 will be one of my favorite plays. I have that, like I said, around 63%. It just goes to show you need to line shop. If you have access to multiple books, make sure you get the best numbers. So anything over 29.5 for Mahomes rushing yards, I think I'll be hitting the under.
All right, Raybon, what about you? Any props for these two quarterbacks that you have your eye on?
Yeah, I think the rushing for Mahomes is definitely probably my favorite one at this point. Jimmy G, I'd probably still take the under. I don't expect him to do much on the ground either way. And like the passing attempts and completions, I think we talked about it on the SiriusXM show for Mahomes. Like the books are kind of inflating, or not the books, but the books have kind of inflated it by like maybe a half of an attempt and a half of a completion. But people seem to be betting the overs so much that at a lot of books you can find the unders at very favorable odds for his attempts and completions, and the medians are 23, 35 for Mahomes. And in the last 3 playoff games, they've fallen behind. So in the AFC Championship last year, 14-0, they fell behind. And then in the playoff games this year, they fell behind 24-0, and then they fell behind, 10-0 to Tennessee. And yet Mahomes didn't go over those numbers in any of those 3 playoff games. So even if they fall behind, especially against a defense that's good, I think there's still a chance that those are pretty close to his true medians. And when you're getting extremely favorable odds to bet the under, 23.5 or the under, 36.5, I think you take it there with Mahomes as well.
I'm very much with both of you guys. I really like the Mahomes rushing under. I've put that in the Action Network app as one of my prop bets for the game. And Raybon, I'm also with you on under for completions and pass attempts for Mahomes, to put some numbers on it. If you look at DraftKings Sportsbook right now, the under 35.5 is plus 115 for pass attempts, and the under for 23.5 completions is plus 125. So I like that you're getting positive numbers for both of those. I like those quite a bit. Raybon, I'm going to have Sean mediate our touchdown prop conversation for Mahomes because Sean, we are split on this. I think at 1.5 as the over under for Mahomes with a juice of minus 235 to the over, which is heavy juice. I acknowledge that. And I originally bet it at 215. But even a juice of 235 to the over, I still think that there is some value there for Mahomes because I understand he has a tough matchup, but in his 27 career games with Tyreek Hill, he has a median of 3, and he's hit the over in 21 of those 27 games. Actually, let me make sure I have this correct. Yeah, 21 of the 27 games. So he's done it at close to 78% clip. So I still think there's a little bit of value there on the over, but I'm sure you think I am a fool, as I can see by the smile on your face.
No, I was going to ask, in that sample size, how many times did they face the 49ers?
I believe they did it once last year in the Jimmy Garoppolo getting injured game.
Oh, really? How
Yeah,
many touchdowns did Mahomes throw in that one?
This is fantastic podcasting right now.
If it was last year, it was probably 5.
Yeah, it was a lot, I think.
What was the?
Oh, so it was 3. It was 3.
Yeah.
314 yards, 3 touchdowns. Losers.
But they were the worst defense. I'm gonna lose this argument either way because I'm looking in the props too, and there's a bet quality of 10 to the over. So from my perspective. Okay, so you take out the game. You look at the games where Mahomes played, and this year, and it's 60% essentially that he throws multiple touchdowns. So about a 40% chance that he doesn't. And I get that, going back, putting in the last year's numbers, it makes sense. But there was a big drop off, in touchdowns from this year to last year, and then looking at the San Francisco 49ers, 50% of the quarterbacks went over their touchdown prop, 50% went under. To me, it's just I just don't see the value at minus 235. I think that's heavy. Usually you see quarterback touchdown props, at the 1.5 mark, well under 200. I get that it's Mahomes, but especially because he has been running a little bit more. Damian Williams has been, scoring on the ground quite a bit, and this is essentially the toughest defense they faced all year outside the Patriots game, where they only, I think, scored 2 touchdowns in that game. I believe it was in the 23-16 win. It's not something I would bet. Even if the math were to say, okay, the percentages say there's a slight value on the over, it's just not something I would bet on the over at minus 235. And I would rather just take a chance on the under because there's more avenues for it to hit, even if the Chiefs still give a normal performance where they score 3 or 4 touchdowns. Again, Damian Williams could get a couple, Mahomes could run one in. There's just a lot more, I think, ways for that to hit than going weighing 235 for him to get multiple scores.
Okay, Sean's going to say something. I know he's gonna intervene, and it's gonna be on your behalf. So I'm just gonna say before that, I know that the 49ers have this unbelievable pass defense, and it is really good. But one thing that makes it good is that it's sort of like a bend, don't break, where they don't allow a lot of deep passes. But, they've allowed 23 passing touchdowns this year during the regular season. It's not as if that is a Patriots level number. The Patriots allowed only 13 passing touchdowns this year. The 49ers still allow decent quarterbacks, even if they're not throwing the ball all the way down the field, they still allow decent quarterbacks to throw touchdowns. And Patrick Mahomes is better than a decent quarterback.
Yeah, that's still like a 1.4, 1.45 or something, though. 23 in 16 games. That's not a lot of touchdowns.
Yeah, but that's also counting some of the horrible quarterbacks that they were playing against, guys who aren't league average. Mason Rudolph, Kyle Allen, Andy Dalton, Case Keenum. You take those out and the number gets even higher.
I'm afraid I can't split the tie here because I was just going to say I think the line's spot on. What was the under price for that? Is it plus 200 or?
It should be. I think
I
it's
think
juiced up.
I
So
think
it's
it's
like
Or it
plus
might be like
180.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't. Yeah.
There's just so
That's
much juice on that. So the fair line I have is like minus 210 for the over.
Ha!
So I mean,
Bang!
you
Gotcha.
both are right and wrong at the same time. I think it's a pass.
No, that's
The
not
2.5
fair. No, Friedman's wrong. I just said I
I'm
wouldn't
just
bet
saying,
it.
I know
Friedman
I'm
loves
wrong.
Friedman loves the over. I'm just like,
yeah,
eh.
I'll say if Sean's setting the line at 210, I'm
Yeah,
wrong. Raybon's right. I don't have a problem saying that. I know. I'm just gonna say odds maker.
And
You are
I
wrong.
feel
Oh, he turned on you. You tried to be the
I see how it is. But just one other point. I mean, it seems like the Super Bowl, we see a lot more trickery also. I know on the 49ers side, we could see Emmanuel Sanders attempt to pass. They always have a prop for number of players with an attempt to pass. Is there anybody on the Chiefs that you guys think, like does Tyreek Hill have the ability to, roll out and throw the ball? Do they
I would
have
hope not.
anybody?
I don't think
Like,
so. I don't think they're
yeah.
going to take the ball out of Mahomes' hands.
Right, that's what I'm
Yeah.
thinking. Yeah, so a prop
Andy
like
Reid
this.
would get, Andy Reid would get shitted on for days if they even if it was just like an incompletion or like on a stalled
Right.
drive, and much less something worse, like he would get just
Or
dragged.
Sammy Watkins throwing an interception, right. But I think we're definitely going to see Emmanuel Sanders pass attempt.
Yeah,
I could see that. Any one of those guys, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like it. I think Shanahan's a little more interested in the trickery.